Hey, welcome back to Wind the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside my co-host Jay Gonzalez. Talking kind of sports. If you want to call in, please do 790-2040. If you have any thoughts on anything we talk about or anything you want us to talk about regarding U of A or Pima or anything local, that'd be great. Even national if you like. I know that Jay was kind of like in his seventh heaven about 10 o'clock. What time did that game end?
Last night I was a little after 10. It was an 8-1 game.
You were good to go from the fifth on, probably.
They smoked them. It was great. I mean, it was a little worrisome because it took a while for the bats to get going, but the Dodgers started ripping them. And anytime they beat the Giants, it's a good thing.
Okay, so I'm not a big baseball fan anymore. A Dodger fan for sure, not ever. But I'm figuring the Dodgers. I didn't know this. This may be the best roster they've had in a long time.
It could be. I mean, you look at their lineup and they're just loaded all up and down the lineup. And then there's some guys on the roster, on the team that aren't even playing. Like, I drafted a Chris Taylor on my team. Guy plays every position, plays all the infield positions, plays outfield, and he didn't even play last night. And so then they've got the pitching, they've got they're well put together, and Mookie Betts now is signed for a dozen years, and guys like Cody Bellinger, who had an incredible year last year. So now they're set up. I mean, it's you still got to go out there and you still got to play the games, and you still got to win the games and get into the playoffs. And they haven't won a World Series with all this talent that they've had over the last several years. I was surprised to learn that they've won the National League West 8 years in a row.
Right. No, they've been solid.
I didn't even know that.
That's kind of like getting the date from the cute girl, and eventually she starts telling you yes, and then when you show up at the door, sorry, I can't go because you guys have been disappointed 8 years.
Yeah, but it'll happen. I mean, how many times did the Braves win their division? And they won one World Series out of all of those.
You could be Buffalo Billed.
Yeah,
you could be Buffalo Billed.
I know, and there have been so many heartbreakers over the last few years. They went to a Game 7 against the Astros, and we found out those guys have been cheating all along. So,
Oh, get the Kleenex, Tom. Here we go. So no. I was going to ask you. So they're very good, obviously, and I didn't know how good they were. But do you think that the 60-game schedule favors them? I think it does.
I asked that of Todd Walsh, and really his opinion, and I kind of agree, is that it doesn't really favor anybody, because what you have to do is you've got to just go out. You can't have a bad stretch.
No, and
that's the key to
for
it.
bad stretches.
When you think about it, through mid-May of last year, which would have been probably 40 games or so, the Washington Nationals were one of the worst teams in baseball.
Yeah, no.
And then they came back and won the World Series. So, you can't do that. And so maybe it favors the teams with a lot of veterans. I was, again, when I was listening to the Dodgers-Giants game last night, the Giants, they've got 30-man rosters right now, okay? And it's going to drop down until they eventually get to 26. But in the 30-man roster, 15 of them weren't on the team last year, or either weren't on the team or weren't on the on the opening day roster last year. I guess a team like that is probably, I don't want to say at a disadvantage, but it's going to be a little tougher for them, just because
they don't know.
There's a break-in period for a team like that, where when you've got a team loaded with veteran guys like the Dodgers, they're ready to go, and they've been through it and they understand it.
So let me apply that logic to the Arizona men's basketball team coming up.
Right,
it's the same difference.
Well, and we've and that's what we've seen over the last several years.
It's hard. It's very difficult to get them to go right away.
When you're breaking in new guys, a bunch of new guys, the majority of your lineup, let's say your 7 or 8 man rotation, weren't on the team last year. It is hard, and yeah, you're going to lose some games that you shouldn't. But with Arizona basketball, the thing is that's what the non-conference season is for.
Sure.
And so you get to the conference season, you feel like, okay, these guys should be ready to go, and they should be able to go. Now, if there's not a non-conference season this year, you've got 6 guys who aren't even in the country or haven't even been in the country, and you're trying to break those guys in on games that really matter. What kind of situation is that going to create for them?
No question. And your thoughts of, we got to go from day one to the end full bore because you have no room for messing up.
Right, you do have no room for messing up. But I did see somebody sent me a text, not a text, a tweet that came out earlier today. Was about Kerr Krisa, the kid from he's playing on the Estonia national team in a game with Lithuania, and it's I think they're professional, not the professional, but a high level junior team.
Sure.
He scored 26 points with 7 assists and shot 8 of 12 from 3.
Okay, so he had a good day. So he had a good day. When he shows up at Arizona, he should have at least 20 good days.
Yeah. So he's on the Estonian national team, and then he played against I guess against high level pros. So it might have been some sort of an exhibition or something like that.
Yeah, there's no question.
Somebody said, "Is 8 of 12 from 3 good?"
Is that sarcasm?
There's a chance that I might not be able to hit the rim 8 times from 3-point range.
Right.
So,
well, that's why these guys are good.
Yeah. So clearly, look, Sean Miller's been a good evaluator of talent.
Mm-hmm.
The problem has been that the talent hasn't come together to get him to the promised land.
Sure.
And that's really, and maybe that's why people feel like he's got to get going, because it appears he's had the talent, but they haven't gotten to a Final Four. They've had 3 shots at it.
If you read the press clippings, yes, he has the talent to do it. Those press clippings may be wrong or a little overinflated.
Right.
And we know we're in the business.
Right.
At times that happens.
Right.
We misevaluate or we write about stuff that people tell us that's not necessarily true, but it's just a bad evaluation.
Right. Well, and here's the deal. Look, and I've been I think I was critical a bit of last year's freshmen. Nico Mannion, Josh Green, and not so much.
In what way?
Just that they weren't as good as we expected them to be. That there was this. They were 5 stars.
Sure,
they were supposed to. They were supposed to be ready to go, ready to play, ready to make an impact. They were good, but they weren't great.
I totally agree with you.
Okay, they were
totally
good.
Agree.
They weren't great. They went through a lot of struggles. I kind of agree with Jamal Baker what he said yesterday on his news conference, that towards the end of the season they seemed to be, kind of, I wouldn't say peaking, but they were clearly playing some of their best basketball. And a lot of things could have happened.
The one thing with them, though, they were inconsistent.
Right.
They'd come play well and then not so well.
And that's the point about when you have kids like that and you're relying on them to give you consistency and bring it every day and play well every day. Because Nico had some great games.
Sure.
But he had some really horrible games too.
I like that because that's where I want to go with this. The kid who just had a good game,
right?
Christian. Okay, you had a good game on Tuesday. Make sure
what
you have it.
The next game?
What are you going to do? You're as good as your last haircut,
right?
Especially in the college game,
right? And that's what. Can you imagine if those 3 guys had stayed and what people would be saying about Arizona basketball right now?
It'd be bonkers.
They'd be saying, okay, these 3 guys, could have been, NBA first round draft picks, but they stayed.
Right.
And I think all 3 of them needed another year of college basketball.
No question.
And they're all 3 of them are dropping in the draft projections. All 3 of them were considered first round picks. Now, there's only one. Green and Mannion aren't considered first round draft picks anymore. So, it's interesting to see what happens with those guys. But somebody thinks they're really good, and they're going to get their shot in the NBA.
All it takes is one.
Right.
All it takes is one. The funny thing about it is, okay, so they come back, and Arizona's really good, and then you're hoping, NCAA, what are they going to do?
Right. And we saw 2 years ago when they got steamrolled by Buffalo in the first round with the best player in college basketball
and 2 other,
on the team,
with Trier and Alkins on the roster as well.
Right. So,
you never know.
But that's why I feel kind of hopeful for the team that they have now, because I feel like none of those guys have a foot out the door and ready to leave after the first year.
But let me say, you've been here a long time. Obviously, you're a native. I've covered them for 30-some years. We have just a minute left. When was the last time you were not hopeful? That's never happened.
No, it's
that's my point. Is everybody here in this town loves this team because
Right.
there's always hope.
There's always hope.
And they have high hope.
Well, and it's great that Arizona's got a program that gives you that kind of hope, because there are some teams that have no hope. So,
Right.
so
Kind of like my
you know,
career.
right. So yeah, it's great to have a team and have that, but you get to the end of the year and they haven't gotten where you would expect.
Right.
There-
Right.
With that hope comes high expectations.
Mhm.
And if they don't get there, now you're disappointed for 6 months before they come back and play.
Well, and I think that's happened maybe in the last 5 years 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Where you
Right.
just said, "Oh, this team's not very good,"
Yeah.
and you'd hope they were good, but they're not.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, let's take our second break here on 10:30 The Voice. Talk more sports on the other side. Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 10:30 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside co-host Jay Gonzalez. So we always get, instead of calls, we get a lot of tweets or
Right.
messages. I got a couple for you. Someone who just Facebook messaged me what the economic impact will be if Arizona does not play football. Their budget is like $80 million, I think, in that ballpark.
Yeah.
I don't think you can register right now. I don't know what it is,
Well,
but it's huge.
yeah. Well, I believe last year Arizona's football revenue was $57 million.
Mhm.
I think I saw that number somewhere. So we're talking probably, 2/3 of it is related to football.
Hmm.
That's why there's this urgency to play football. It's a huge impact, and we're not talking about just the people, the revenue that goes into the athletic department. We're talking about jobs.
Yeah.
We're talking about all kinds of stuff. We're
Sure.
talking about my well-being. Okay,
Mhm.
my well-being. If there's no college football, I'm in big trouble.
Because you love the game.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you: do you think there are more people like you than not like you?
Not in Tucson, but
No, but there's fans like you that just
across the country. I mean, again, and we've talked about this. Let's not underestimate the importance of sports to us as a
Sure,
society.
sure, it's therapeutic.
Okay, it's therapeutic. It keeps people engaged in stuff. During football season, I look forward to Wednesday, because then I get to the middle of the week, and then I can start looking forward to Saturday.
Mhm.
And it honestly does help my approach to my daily life. And I don't want to overstate it, but when I've got a college football game at the end of the week, whether it's a home game or a road game, I'm motivated all week long.
Oh, you already mapped out of what you're going to watch?
Yeah, when Arizona isn't playing, when they've got a bye week, those weeks drag. They drag for me.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a second question. What if there's a lost season for students? Do they automatically get another year back? We saw this year that they do get. I don't know if they automatically moving forward,
Right.
but they're getting their senior year back.
Right, and I think if we saw it would have been at the junior college level, that if they say if there's no sports, you keep your eligibility or something like that.
Mhm.
Certainly, everybody's got their eye on that. If there's no college football season, do those guys get to have another year if they want it? Again, let's remember
They have lives too.
Yeah, but let's remember some of those guys who are going to be, who are right now seen as number 1 draft picks. They're not coming back.
Right.
In fact, if the football season moves to the spring,
They're not.
I doubt they're going to play.
Sure. And you're talking about the Clemson quarterback,
Right, and the
a few
Ohio
other
State
pers-
quarterback
right.
and some of those guys. So, all of that gets thrown in. But yeah, I think the NCAA and all the conferences have been pretty steady on that. Is to make sure that these kids who are, suffering through this and losing eligibility and stuff like this through no fault of their own,
Mhm.
they're giving them, if they want it, the chance to come back and play.
The one problem with that is that it's costing colleges a lot of money.
It is.
$500,000, I think, to re-scholarship, redo everything.
Right. Yeah,
Dep-
no, it will. It absolutely will. But, look, if it's that, they'll find the money. They'll get it
Sure,
from somewhere. Yeah,
sure.
I think we saw that
Sure.
Roy Williams at
Yeah.
at North Carolina, he donated money for that.
$600,000.
$600,000
Yeah.
for
That's
to
that's
fund
$10 to you and me.
to fund the scholarships for the students who
Mhm.
were getting a year back.
Right.
And so, good for them. And you'd like to think that there'd be other people who would do that.
Yeah, no question. So can I give you some bad news? Although you already know if I give this news to you. because we're what 24th. We should know definitely whether they're going to play by August 24th. So Michigan State's entire
Right.
football team is now in quarantine.
Right.
I think we're going to see more of that kind of than less of that.
Well, that's the scary part. Because the scary part of that is that they haven't even started practicing.
Right.
They're not
Right.
hitting each other or
Right.
anything. Now, it was 2-player positive tests and one staff
a couple
member.
of yeah.
Okay, and so they just said, let's shut it down. And maybe they're just being overly cautious. Let's say that happened during practice, once camp starts.
Yeah.
They might just separate those guys and keep an eye out on everybody else. The timing of this is that they'll be the team will be able to come out of quarantine in time for camp to start. So it seems to me that what they did was, let's do this so that we can be ready when camp
Which is a
starts.
great idea. I think that more teams probably should do that.
Yeah.
Arizona is not
They're still not bringing.
anybody new in.
Yeah, they haven't
But
added anymore.
They had 80-something.
83 people.
Yeah, so
83
pretty much
football players. So
Pretty much everybody.
I would imagine their players are in all the sports are going to be coming back relatively soon.
Right. Let's go back to the we talked about this maybe 2 weeks ago, a week ago. Notre Dame and the Independents trying to find spots to play because there's no spots to play.
Well, they lost a bunch of non-conference games. They lost 3 big non-conference games.
Yeah, BYU as well. But let's talk about Notre Dame.
Yeah, so Notre Dame had lost Wisconsin, Stanford, and USC.
Right.
That's 3 big giant holes in their schedule. And now, for those who don't know, they've got an agreement with the ACC, and they play 6 ACC games a year, and then their other 6 games are, various opponents. They played ASU a couple of years ago, so they lost 3 of those games. So what's out on the table now is that Notre Dame would play this year a full ACC schedule, which is 8 games, and then they'd probably keep 2 non-conference games. So, again, if they're looking for games, I thought way back then that the most likely place to go get those games would be out of the ACC, and it looks like that's what's about to happen.
It's logical.
Yeah,
It's logical.
but like everybody else, the ACC is going. They're going to be announcing what they're going to be doing. But the Big 12 just said yesterday, or the day before, they're not going to announce what they're doing until after the 1st of August, where the Pac-12 has said we're going to get their schedule on July 31st. It looks like, the Big 12 is saying, well, we're going to wait a little longer. So I don't know what we're going to get. I think these schedules are going to come out. I think they're going to have fall schedules, and the plan is going to be to play in the fall. So I think they're going to get going. And
See how long it lasts. See how long it
exactly.
lasts.
Let's see how long it lasts.
Right. Not to be the Grim Reaper as usually I am. So some more weird news, but I'm going to ask you this. It's July 24th, 25th, 24th. Do you believe much in the bracketology guy, Lunardi, at this time of year or any time of year?
I don't really start paying attention to that till well into conference seasons.
Neither do I.
Because I think for the most part, those things are done based on reputation and not
and
on
who they have, right.
what's on the court.
So Arizona's reputation right now is they're a 9 seed in the South, I think. One of 5 teams from the Pac-12. 9 seed.
I think based on what we know, that's, but I think there's a big range of what Arizona could be. I mean, I'd like to think that, anywhere between a 5 and a 9 is probably
Is realistic.
legit. Again, they didn't show very well last year. Again, we can all say, well, they were playing well at the end of the year and they were going to do well. Who knows? But again, the team has flipped over again. So somebody says they're a 9 seed. I'm like, fine. It doesn't even really matter. But I don't start paying attention to that stuff until you actually start, and not even with non-conference games. I mean,
Right.
Several weeks into the conference season before
Yeah.
I started looking at, okay, what kind of seed are we talking about, and where are you going to wind up? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's what you know today doesn't mean what you'll know in 8 months from now or whatever months.
Yeah. Hey, look, those guys need something to do, right?
And we're talking about,
just like we all do.
and I'm talking.
You
Yeah,
know, I
I'm
mean, we've been
talking
sitting
about-
here talking about. I mean, I threw out my 6-6 U of A record a month ago. So
Yeah,
a way too early forecast, but we needed something to do, you know,
Right,
and so, and that, you know, I don't have any issues with that. Let people, you know, generate their,
Right.
you know, their conversation.
I think though, if Arizona was like a 1 or a 2, everybody would talk about, oh, we're going to be great next.
Well, yeah, of course. If it's good news, if it's good news, well, now it matters.
Right. No. This kind of realistic news. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah. Let's move on. That's not a big deal. But again, if they had come out and said that Arizona's a 1 and 2, I'd go, are you nuts?
Right.
You know, because certainly they're not that, but they could be by the end of the year.
Right.
You know,
right.
because who knows how these guys are going to come together.
So in the last 5 years, they're kind of just shooting the breeze here. 5 years. Who have been your favorite players? You get a front row seat on the bottom, and I know you've had some favorite players.
Wow.
In terms of whatever personality, just good.
Last
whatever.
5 U of A Last 5 years of U of A basketball.
Give me top 2 or 3.
Well, I is TJ been
McConnell
been gone
cusp.
past? He's right on the
I'll
edge,
give
right?
you that
He's there.
because he's everybody's
Okay,
guy.
you give me TJ. I'll take TJ and I'll take Nick Johnson.
Okay.
Okay.
Give me a third.
Well, DeAndre Ayton. I mean, the guy was a beast.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a. I mean, in terms of just a dominating ball player. I mean, Arizona hasn't had a guy like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all for different reasons, right?
Right.
Yeah, those 3 for all
But
for
you know,
different-
it bothered me that when they were in the Bahamas, he went and talked to some kids and he said, "Yeah, I'm out of here." You know, and then they went and lost 3 games in the Bahamas, and I'm like, "Well, now we know where his head's at. It's certainly not on the basketball court." But you know,
That's funny you say that.
The way he dominated the Pac-12 tournament that year was great to watch. And you know, and I mean, he set all kinds of records, and he was as good a player as I think Arizona has had. It's particularly in that position.
Yeah. So you picked all 3 or the 3 for probably different reasons. TJ, lovable,
Just
likable,
a lovable guy,
good player.
did the work.
Johnson probably almost for the same reasons.
Yeah, and you just liked him because you could tell he was a team player. He was working hard. You just wish he was about 3 inches taller.
And then obviously
DeAndre Ayton, who's just
out of this world.
born with everything.
So the reason I'm bringing this up is because Dusan Ristic just signed with an Italian team after playing in his kind of home country. He was one of mine.
Yeah.
He could probably top 5 because, you know, Dusan was just a lovable guy. He loved being in Tucson. He was like, you know, in heaven.
Yeah.
And just one of those guys that I don't know, you kind of just really, really liked him.
I did like him a lot, but one of the things that was so hard to watch about him was how little defense he could play. Because you know, I mean, we're sitting, you know, we would be sitting there, you know, doing the games, and he's in the game. And we're like, will somebody please throw him the ball? The guy scores every time he gets the ball,
Right.
6 feet from the basket.
He does.
Give him the dang ball.
Yeah.
But when you go to the other side, will somebody help him out, please?
Was he already down the court yet? Because sometimes he wasn't down the court
You know,
yet.
it's just, you know, when he was in there and you just thought, okay, you know, they're going to start throwing the ball in the middle, and you just hope that they can survive, you know, during this time that he's in. But very likable guy. I liked him a lot. He was fun to watch.
I tried to reach out to him when he came up, and I still kind of talk to him on Facebook and all that but he's back home and he's got a huge hour difference, and he can't call us because he's got WhatsApp. He can't. There's the only way he can read it, so he can't get in. But one of the great guys, what I'll always remember about him, and you probably saw this because you were right there. He had the ball at the top of the key. Arizona had this big lead, and Sean's saying, "Don't shoot," and he shoots the 3.
Right.
And he's saying, "No," and he said, "Shaking it," and then he makes
and
it.
he drains it.
And then he makes it, and Sean's like saying, "What did you just do?"
I remember that shot because we all did the same thing. We said, no, and then it went in.
Yeah.
And then we're all looking to Sean to see,
Right.
is he going to yank him? Is he going to leave him?
And
What's
he's like,
he going to do?
He gave his eyes to the sea, like, "What the heck did you just do?"
I did like him. God, I'm trying to think who else in that time frame. I liked the little guard, Parker Jackson Carver.
Oh yeah.
I liked him a lot because again, a kid who was just didn't have the physical. You know, he wasn't tall enough. He wasn't big enough. You know, he wasn't strong enough. But you just felt like he really worked hard and he really wanted to win.
Right. What about Rounday Hollis? He's kind of like
He was
over
fun.
the cups. Yeah.
He was fun to watch.
Yeah, but I think the 3 you gave were pretty good for all different reasons. You know, you have Dusan was kind of like that guy. he was good. He's good to talk
Yeah.
to, kind of funny, yada yada.
Right.
And he came a long way. He had no English,
did.
and
Right.
he played well. Hey, we're already way over the break. It goes fast when you're talking about sports. Here on 10:30 The Voice, we come back for our last segment. Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 10:30 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside Jay Gonzalez. The summer breezes the last couple of days have been pretty good.
It's been actually even pleasant to go outside at night.
Yes,
so
yes.
it's-
You might even pick up a club and
it's-
go play.
Nah, I'm getting ditched this weekend. My son's not going to play golf with me because he's playing with his buddies tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm I'm the last minute fill in, right?
Yeah, you're the last minute, but it's okay. You got baseball now.
There's baseball, and
You got golf.
I got to do some yard work this weekend.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Hey, we've been busy. What's up with next week's guest?
Yeah,
Pretty
we've got
good
a whole
lineup.
bunch of we've got them lined up for next week. So on Monday we've got Mike Lude and Bert Knert, two guys that have been deeply involved in college football, particularly in the Tucson area. With they've been a big part of getting the bowl games here. Bert's been he's been a representative for a number of U of A athletes coming out of school and going to the pros. Mike Lude, he's a college football Hall of Famer and
Former AD at
former
Washington.
AD at Washington, and I think he was the WAC commissioner.
I don't know.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I should have looked that up before I said that. But just guys who've been deeply involved, and they've got some ideas and some thoughts about what's happening with college football.
Right,
I think even beyond the COVID thing, in terms of how to deal with a number of the issues that have cropped up. So we're going to have that conversation on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we're going to bring in Brian Jeffries,
Mhm.
who's the voice of the Wildcats and forever and ever. I mean, he was doing it back when I was covering, stuff for the Star, and he was pretty young at it at that
Yeah,
point. Now
he just arrived in like
Yeah,
87,
now
88.
now he's an old guy like us, and still at it. And for me, when I go to other stadiums, when I go to USC or whatever,
Mhm.
I always listen to the radio broadcast, not because I want to listen to their announcers, just because I
Informed.
listen to the game so that if somebody's hurt, I know why they got hurt. Yada yada yada. Brian's the best in the business.
Mhm.
I don't think I've heard any, at least a Pac-12 announcer that I thought was better than him. And now that we can listen to whatever games, online and stuff like that,
Mhm.
through various apps and stuff like that, Brian's the best. And what I love about Brian is that while he's pulling for Arizona and he gets excited about Arizona, he's not the homer of it, that Arizona has.
right.
He's not the guy that's complaining about every flag that gets thrown against Arizona or every call that goes
And
against
let me tell you something. That's very rare.
That's
Very rare.
incredibly rare. And there are some announcers that are you just want to turn them off
Right.
because they're complaining about they're like the fan in the seats.
Sure.
And to me, growing up listening to Vin Scully, who was the Dodger announcer, and if you didn't know he was a Dodger announcer, you wouldn't know what team he was.
Yeah,
he
and
was
that's
with.
how it should be.
And that's how I always thought broadcasters should be.
Right. So that'll be good. He's going to actually cross over and
Yeah.
visit with us.
So he's going to come and
I
talk
want
to
to
us.
talk about some of the great. He's got some great stories. I
Oh.
know he does.
Yeah, I'd love to go through
Coaches
some of
he's
that
talked
stuff,
to
but
and things like that.
want to get some of his perspective on particularly college football. That's part of his livelihood.
Mhm,
So yeah,
mhm. The last thing he wants to happen is this football season go to spring
can
because
you
you'll
imagine?
never basketball spring this that whoever.
I mean, he's done that a few times where
The
there's been
race.
a basketball game and then he's hustled back to do a football game.
this will be
So-
every day.
Yeah.
Every week.
right. And
So-
then we're going to have one more guest, Mark Harlan, who's now the athletic director at Utah, but he cut his teeth at Arizona. He was a graduate assistant on the football team under Dick Tomey, made his way up as a fundraiser at Arizona, went to UCLA as an assistant athletic director, became the athletic director at South Florida for a year or two, and now he's at Utah. And again, another perspective from outside of Arizona in terms of what's going on that could affect Arizona. Mark's a fun guy. He's a great guy. He played a joke on me yesterday when I reached out to him. I sent a text to what I thought was his phone number, and I got a text back that said wrong number. And so I was starting to text an apology, and then he said he was just kidding, and it was him. So that's the kind of guy he is. He's a fun guy, and doing a good job over at Utah. And he's got that program in really good shape in all sports. And so looking forward to having him next week. Not sure what day we're going to have him because there's some other guests that we're trying to line up, but
Right.
all three of those will be next week.
Right. No, so we're trying to get into that bubble of the NBA
Yeah.
to have him talk about next week. It starts already.
Yeah, the NBA starts next Thursday. There's a couple of games on Thursday, and then the rest of the teams get going on Friday. So one more sport that we add to the menu, and it should be a lot of fun. And a lot of stuff going on over there in Florida. A lot of stuff.
Right, and there's a lot of former U of A guys in the bubble and coaches.
Right.
We've seen them here, so there's always this time of year is always kind of crazy not this time of year. Basketball season's always crazy,
Right.
and this is an extension of that.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens.
So I'm interested to see if we can get a hold of somebody who can come and give us a firsthand perspective on what that's like over there, because the stories you see, you see other guys get interviewed on some of these national talk shows and stuff like that, and it's interesting to see what they're going through.
Right. Another quick. We said before the show started it was a long, slow week, but again, these hours go real quick.
They do, and we've had a lot of stuff to talk about, and we're just winging it today. And but you know what? Without sports, we've had plenty to talk about all summer long. And now we're slipping into the games.
We have a week before the schedules will be officially announced. I would assume that the schedules will kind of sneak out before that.
Yeah,
Don't you
I
think?
think we're going to start. Yeah, I mean the fact that John Wilner got the heads up on what the Pac-12 was doing, and whether we get the exact schedule, I don't know. But certainly it looks like September 19th is our target date for Pac-12 football to get started.
If all things are good.
If things remain, if we keep, apparently the direction that we're going right now is good enough. So if we keep going in this direction and maybe flatten out the curve, the so-called curve, that we'll see some football in September.
No curves.
No curves.
SpongeBob body. Here we go. Thanks, Jake.
All right, everybody, have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday.
Thanks.